So I was just getting ready to leave and I decided to check my phone and OG Anunoby ended up getting extended $212.5 million over 5 years. I'm not surprised by any means because if you guys have been following my videos, we talked about how multiple people around the league had OG in that price range. The question, how much is that annually? Let's go ahead and let's do the math and divide by 5. 42.5 million for OG is just ridiculous. Oh man. So basically the Knicks, I'm not going to say they shot themselves in the foot because obviously OG is very important to our team. We saw that in the first round of the playoffs, but they traded RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly to go get OG, which meant that they had to retain him at all costs. Not to mention the fact that Philly had a ton of cap space. So if he were to go to Philly, now all of a sudden you've got one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball with Maxey and Embiid, and that's just going to be even more of a headache for us. So we end up paying OG, which means we now cannot afford Isaiah Hartenstein. So he's as good as gone. We're going to have to pivot to potentially Andre Drummond. We're going to have to pivot to a rookie center tonight. The draft's in less than 10 minutes at the time of me recording this video. I do expect the Knicks to use one of those two picks on a big. And then, of course, Mitchell Robinson now probably doesn't get traded just because we can't afford to have our starting center. So this, to me, is certainly a positive. It is an overpay, but it was also an overpay to give up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. But at the end of the day, it helps us get closer to a championship, and that's all that matters to me. Last season with the Knicks, the Knicks were 20-3 with him in the lineup. He averaged 14 points, over 4 boards, 2 steals, and a block. I mean, he was just the type of player that defensively took us to a different level. We were number 1 in defensive rating with him on the court. Remember that month of January? We were at 1 point, 12-2 with Randall, Brunson, and OG, and then the injuries started to kick in. OG's overall versatility is huge for us. He's also one of the best catch and shoot corner 3 shooters in the league. He's a guy who elevated his 3-point percentage in the playoffs when it mattered most on the big stage. So I do like this move overall. I don't think 42 million a year, 42.5 million technically, is that much of an overpay because we're talking about a guy who can give you 15 to 20 every single night that plays elite level defense. I don't think there's 5 better defenders in basketball than Anunoby. Not to mention he's, 27 years old. So the issue is that he just can't stay healthy. He hasn't played in 70 games since his rookie season, which was in 2017, 2018. He was not available during that Raptors 2019 finals run, and then he got a hamstring injury against the Pacers and would return in Game 7, but as we know, he played in just 5 minutes. He was nowhere capable of being out there, yet he hit a couple of threes. So that's the thing with OG is we now have Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. That's the best 1-2 perimeter defensive punch in basketball, which is exactly what you need to beat the reigning defending champion Boston Celtics. Jalen Brunson's on a steal of a contract. He's going to get extended, but he's also taking a pay cut to help the Knicks win games. So shout out to Brunson. He could easily probably pull in a supermax type of deal, but he's going to take one for the team. Also, there's the financial stability as well, knowing the fact that if you get injured, you're still taken care of. So that's a factor as well. Brunson could technically wait until next season to do that, but I think he's going to do it this offseason. Julius Randle is going to get extended. Dante Hart, Mitchell Robinson, these guys are under contract. I do hate to see Isaiah go because he was one of my favorite players on the team last season. He was on Hart and Brunson's podcast, and it was cool to see that different side of him, the guy that wasn't on the court competing. Very funny dude. And then in terms of the rest of our roster, so here's who will be on the team next season. OG, Mikal, Jalen, Julius, Miles, Dante, Hart. That's it. Mitchell Robinson, there's no guarantee he doesn't get traded still. We could end up trading him and then pivot to completely different big men. So Precious Achiuwa is a restricted free agent. Burks is unrestricted. Jericho Sims, we have to pick up his deal, so there's no guarantee. I guess technically Daquan Jeffries is going to be here unless we end up moving him in a trade because I don't think the Bridges trade's finalized. So we could end up moving that for salary purposes. So that's really it. Is the Knicks have so many holes on this roster to fill out. Our starting 5 isn't even set because of the big position. Like, it's just so difficult to predict what the Knicks are going to do next. But we did know that they were going to get a deal done with OG. We just didn't know for how much. We knew that they were going to get it done at all costs because they did not want to have traded their two best young pieces for a rental. Like, that was just never going to happen. But I don't think it's that bad. I mean, Jaylen Brown, how much does Jaylen Brown make a year? Obviously, Jaylen Brown is a better basketball player than OG, and he was the finals MVP. But Jaylen Brown has an annual average salary of over $57 million. So paying OG $42.5 million, I think OG is capable of defending Jaylen Brown in a 7-game series, right? We were never beating the Celtics without OG. We were never winning a championship without OG. So to pay him is certainly something that the Knicks just had to do, and I'm glad they did. Our roster right now is much better than it was last year. We have a full season now of Randall, OG, and Brunson. You added Mikal Bridges. Donte DiVincenzo started the year off as a bench player and ended up just breaking out. Josh Hart, same thing. The question is, what do we do at center? But once we establish that, right? So we'll know by the end of, well, technically we won't even know by the end of the draft because the Knicks could still sign Drummond or they could sign potentially another type of big man. But if we do not trade Mitchell Robinson during the draft, I think it's safe to assume that he will start center for us next season. And then if we do draft a big, he'll be our backup. If we don't draft a big, then we'll go out and we'll bring in a veteran to do that. So overall, the Knicks are in a great spot. Cannot stress enough of how thrilled I am with the direction of this team on both sides of the basketball. Offensively, we have plenty of ways to beat you. We have shooters like a Dante, Bridges, and OG. Bridges is the best three-point corner shooter in basketball, if you guys didn't know that. So we have guys that can knock down open threes. Miles McBride's another amazing spot-up shooter. Jalen Brunson, one-on-one, is as good as it gets in basketball, especially at his size. I mean, in terms of skill, he's right at the top. Julius Randle's a guy that can go give you 25 every single night on 50% shooting. And of course, we're going to continue to just fill out guys. But I think the biggest thing is people buying into the identity of this basketball team. People are going to want to play for the Knicks. They're going to want to take less money. They're going to want to come in for vets and minimum to play with this team because we're building something special. And it's going to be a massive opportunity competing for a championship. And that's really all you can ask for. But I certainly did not expect OG to get signed today. I would have thought it would have been over the weekend, but I mean, I'm certainly not complaining. Now I can get that stress and anxiety of the fact of him not being on the team next season out of the way. But the draft is in 2 minutes, so I am ultimately going to head out and go watch it for you guys. We have picks 23 and 24, so it doesn't really matter if I turn it on late because I'm solely focused on that to begin with. But I'm hoping we draft the wing, somebody who's 6'7" to 6'8" that can defend. I don't really care about offense because you can develop offense. If you're already an NBA-ready defender, you can work on your offensive game. But that's how I feel. Like Kawhi Leonard kind of reminds me of a guy who came into the league and had all the tools defensively and then worked on his offense. So Ryan Dunn is my top target. In terms of the 24th overall pick, it has to be a big man. It certainly has to. It doesn't mean you reach for a big. If you have the player at the top of your board that's a shooting guard or a small forward, you definitely do that. But we definitely have to address the center position. We cannot go in with Jericho Sims as our backup big, but it's your boy Knicks Daily signing out, guys.